Let's talk about this as well off the top. Tonight, in most theaters across the country, the brand new comedy Happytime Murders will open up. Now, the last time I checked, the Rotten Tomatoes meter on Happytime Murders was hovering around 25%. So only like 1 out of every 4 critics actually like this movie. And I gotta tell you, for myself personally, I don't know what they're talking about. I seriously, I don't, because 3 out of 4 critics, roughly, do not like this film, and I gotta tell you, I'm surprised. Now, I knew Happytime Murders would be a divisive movie, because the trailers were completely divisive, right? There's no middle ground on it. And I think the movie is the same way. There's not a lot of middle ground. I think you're either gonna really like it, or you're gonna really hate it. And the trailers did that, right? Half the people thought it was freaking hilarious. A whole bunch of people thought it was just crude and stupid looking. I get it. So I knew this movie wasn't going to be for everybody. And I'll be honest with you. The fact that the studio held off the review embargo until the day before the movie opened, that's a big red flag. It is. So I went in to the movie to watch it the other night with a little bit, number one, I was super excited because of the trailers, but I was a little, cautious and a little apprehensive because of the fact that the studios pulled this incredibly questionable move of holding off the reviews until the day before the movie came out, which is never a good sign. So I didn't know what to think. Now, I had briefly for a moment met the writers of the film, Todd and Dee. I met the writers of the film briefly just before the screening because I know their publicist. And, we met, and that's great, and whatever. So I went in to watch the movie. I really enjoyed Happytime Murders on a couple of different levels. Level number 1, it's a comedy. The main thing I'm looking for is laughs. Made me laugh. And you know what? The audience I saw it with laughed a lot too, which is part of the reason why I was so surprised to see so many negative reviews, because I saw a press screening of this thing, and lots of these press were laughing. Lots of these press were laughing. That audience I saw this movie with was laughing a lot. And yet a bunch of them still walked out and wrote negative reviews. Whatever, just because they laughed, that doesn't necessarily mean they like the movie. Fair enough. But to me, for a comedy, the number one thing I'm looking for in a comedy is, do you make me laugh? That's the most important thing. And it made me laugh. So on that level as a comedy, it completely made me laugh. And the thing is, the funniest parts of the movie to me weren't even in the trailers. And that's rare. So I enjoyed that. Another aspect of Happytime Murders that really clicked for me and worked well for me was that even if you take the puppets out and forget the shtick of the puppets and that whole sort of thing, Happytime Murders to me works as a 1980s style buddy cop movie. And it completely, the whole movie is this love letter to 1980s style buddy cop movies. And I was eating it up on that level as well. Look, are there a number of jokes in this film that didn't work and fell flat? Absolutely there are. Absolutely. Can't deny that. Is there some questionable narrative paths they take to get to some weird conclusion? Absolutely there is. Yes. So that's fine. I get that. This is not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination. So the basic premise of the film, which you probably picked up from the trailers, is this. Back in the 80s or early 90s, there was a very popular, in this world where puppets and humans exist together, there was this very popular puppet show called the Happytime Gang. And now we fast forward to today, and somebody is going around murdering the old cast members of the Happytime Gang. Hence the name of the movie, The Happytime Murders, right? And so this former cop, who's now a PI, is hot on the investigative trail trying to find out who's committing these murders because his brother was one of the cast members of the Happytime Gang. So he's got some skin in the game, right? He wants to find out who's doing these murders. So that's the basic premise of it. Then eventually comes his old cop partner, played by Melissa McCarthy. I liked the dynamic a lot. I'll be straight up with you. Melissa McCarthy's becoming a little bit hit and miss, no doubt. But I liked the dynamic between the puppet, the lead puppet named Phil, and the Melissa McCarthy character. I thought their dynamic worked on the kind of level you would expect a 1980s buddy cop movie to work. And that worked for me. And again, the humor throughout it worked as well. And on top of that, the mystery part of it, because, there's a murderer on the loose, you're trying to solve who it is. I thought the mystery part of it was kind of good too. Not the most dynamic thing I've ever seen, but I thought it kind of worked. Look, bottom line is, I walked out of this movie having enjoyed myself. Is it one of the top 5 best movies of the year? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. Not at all. Is this movie for everybody? Obviously not, especially with the R-rated material and the very fact that 3 out of every 4 film critics don't seem to like this movie. Fair enough. It's not for everybody. All I can do is tell you my personal experience with it. And my personal experience with Happytime Murders was I walked in, I sat down, I grinned, giggled, laughed a lot, and had a good time. Despite some of the obvious shortcomings of the films as well, by the time I walked out, I was entertained and smiling. So, I recommend you guys check out Happytime Murders. I cannot guarantee you're going to like it because there's a lot of other people who don't, and it's clearly not for everyone, but I would recommend checking it out because I had a good time with it. I really did. And it's kind of original. You don't see a lot of films like this these days. The fact that it harkens back to the 80s style buddy cop, I mean, a lot of things in there just made it a worthwhile experience for me watching it. Whether it will be for you, only you can decide that, but I had a good time. So that's my review for Happytime Murders. All right, moving on to the next little thing here. Also pertains to Happytime Murders. Okay, as I mentioned, before going in to watch the movie, I briefly met Todd and Dee, the 2 dudes who wrote this movie and actually kind of came up with the concept of this movie years ago, back when they were in college. But they wrote this film, and it's like, okay, nice to meet you guys, whatever. I went and watched it. I had such a good time, and I never do this, but I had such a good time, I ran out of the theater when the movie was done to make sure I could catch up with these 2 guys. And I said, listen, I really enjoyed that. Can I please get you to come down and meet with me and sit down and talk a little bit about Happytime Murders? Because I would love to pick your brains on it and get some background stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I never do that after a movie's done. But I ran out and grabbed these guys because I just loved how fresh it was to me. So I grabbed them. They said, yeah, when you want to get together? I said, how about tomorrow? So they actually came down and met me in Hollywood. Remember my friends at the Stream where we used to shoot AMC Movie Talk all those years ago? So I arranged with the Stream, say, hey, can I come and interview these guys at the Stream? They said, sure, come on down. So I'm going to put up the full interview with these guys a little bit later today on my YouTube channel because the full interview is about 17 minutes or so. But I wanted to give you guys just a few minutes of this, just 2 or 3 minutes. Here's a little segment of my discussion with Todd and Dee, the writers of Happytime Murders. Check it out. All right, so the first thing I've got to ask about the movie, and I loved it. I absolutely love this movie. It's funny, but I remember I ran out of the theater after we were done. I grabbed your publicist and I said, the first thing I said to her is, the thing I loved most about the movie was take the puppets out of it. This is a great 80s style buddy cop movie. And like her face lit up. She goes, that's what they were going for. How did this whole thing start? And we're going to go out of chronological order here, but did this thing start as a buddy cop movie idea? Was it the story already there? Was it always envisioned as a puppet thing? What was the genesis of this?
We knew we wanted to do something with puppets. Dee and I had known each other since college, and we'd made a puppet short film in college, and we knew we wanted to do a feature. We both loved Who Framed Roger Rabbit, of course.
Right,
and
yeah.
We both recently moved to Los Angeles. This was in the early aughts. And so we both loved Who Framed Roger Rabbit. We loved Peter Jackson's Meet the Feebles, which is like an R-rated crazy puppet movie. And we loved, I loved, I can't speak for you, but Training Day was just in theaters when we came up with
That's not a movie you expect to hear with the other ones.
No,
but yeah.
But so I just moved to LA, and for me, Training Day was actually one of the only DVDs I owned at the time. It was like Training Day and Best in Show, and I would watch Training Day over and over to prepare myself to move to LA, like because I thought that's what it's going to be like.
Now you sound Canadian.
that's how you buy weed, right? But then they might put angel dust in it, so you have to be careful. So Dee and I said, oh well, we want to do something with puppets in a world where puppets and humans coexist, and then it hit us to do kind of like a buddy cop movie, like throwback to Lethal Weapon. Because all of those buddy cop movies were always taking two cops from 2 different walks of life,
right? Yeah,
and pairing them up together. And Lethal Weapon is literally like it's a black cop and a white cop or 48 Hours, like
Tango and Cash.
Can you believe? Tango and Cash. There's like this, the fact that Sylvester Stallone was like the suit wearing straight laced one, and then Kurt Russell's like the crazy one who plays by his own rules. So we thought, oh, what a perfect opportunity! It's 2 cops from 2 different walks of life. But one of their walks of life is that he's a puppet, and he knows the puppet community, and he's the first puppet cop. And she hates puppets, you know? And putting those 2 forces together is like a perfect way to send up the tropes of buddy cop movies, like the classic Shane Black buddy cop, genre of the 80s that we loved so much.
Yeah, and then there was also like the film noir aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of complex storytelling in terms of like the plot and the characters and even the overall feel of Los Angeles, and you'll know like it is a direct representation of LA, but it's also like a little more heightened in terms of the world, because you have puppets coexisting with humans. It's a little bit more seedy, but I think that ultimately it's like a genre, a blend of different genres.
And there you go, guys. We again, I'm going to put up the full interview that I did with these guys on my YouTube channel a little bit later. I had a really good time talking with them. He actually pulls out a little bit later in the interview. He pulls out one of the original puppets that they got and put together for a short film version of it before. It's actually pretty funny. But again, that's it. That interview with Todd and Dee, the writers of Happytime Murders, will be up on my YouTube channel a little bit later today.